Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. Shrinkflation in front of your eyes. Is that false advertising? 4 German companies over 125 years old, all bankrupt. BASF, permanent downsize, moving to China. This is a disruption. Subsidy Tracker to see who's getting free money. Dutch inflation 17%. Over in the UK, warning of blackouts, really cold evenings. Get ready for it. Canadian wheat down. All oils as well. Global electric circuit uptick. This would explain a lot of weather bends and crop losses across the globe. And as we inch ever closer to deeper winter, Financial Times, National Grid, Britons warned of blackouts on really cold evenings, which they're expecting this winter particularly. But it won't be until January, and it'll only be 4 to 7 p.m. that you won't have any power when it's really, really cold. Could be February too, but remember, we all need to work together. Case in point, British Gas, previous payment $52 a month, future payments $1,248 a month. And that'll be without 3 hours of power per day. Which moves over into interest-free loans to help with food bills in the UK. I guess they get you coming and going because they're offering interest-free loans on the electric bills too. So every ounce of food is going to really count. But when we start counting, what's that, 6.84 ounces? But the ground beef package says 10 ounces. I think there's more shenanigans going on in the food supply than are being let on. I wonder how many packages would follow this same profile if we get out the scales. And I'm still waiting for the October figures, but here's the Dutch inflation for September, 17%. Remember, here in America, we're blessed with just 8.5%, although that should be moving immediately in November. Jump over to the Subsidy Tracker, which is companies that are getting free money, subsidies from states or governments to continue their operations if they're set up in the United States. Now here's the top 12 for you. Boeing always at the top of that receivership handout list there, along with GM, Intel, Micron, Ford, Alcoa, X-Energy, Chenery, Foxconn. How was that foreign company sitting there atop the list? General Atomics, Sempra, and Amazon, of all things, Amazon. Got to look into this further. So when you go on to the site, which I link below in the description box, you can click on. I chose Ford Motor Company for an example right here. It'll show you who is the donor, federal grant, and how much they're receiving per federal grant. Which year, if it's ongoing, or if it was a one-time. That is an enormous amount of money being given to these private companies to continue operations. Gee, wonder why there's so many lobbyists. That would explain it. Before we start, just a quick word from our sponsor. It's true carnage in the stock market, unlike anything we've seen. The average stock is down 41.7% from its 52-week high. More interest rates are expected. Meanwhile, gold is down only 8%. So it's proven to be a source of protecting wealth and a hedge against inflation. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has a no-fee-for-life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver, and you may qualify for the no-fee-for-life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Give them a call, 888-546-7020, to get your free investor guide today. And now on with the video. But number 9, Foxconn, I thought, hey, that's a foreign companies. Let's take a look there. How is this getting subsidies? Well, it's actually Sharp Laboratories that are receiving the subsidies. And again, it's federal grants, tax credits, which is okay on the tax credit, but just giving away money straight away. You look at these lists and say, whoa, 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 whoa. And could I say it again? Whoa, hold on. This much money being given away, that list is 100 deep, and when you start clicking through there, it is hundreds of billions of dollars being given to companies that are then charging you money, and then you pay taxes at the register. I encourage you to look through it, and at the end of it, you're going to have a very different look on how monies are asked for across the United States for your labor. Well, let's jump over to Europe out of the US here. Last week, the German Chemical Industry Association says that that continent may become an industrial museum. And I thought, that's a huge statement, industrial museum, until we look over and see 4 German companies, all 125 plus years old, are insolvent and will close. Construction company Wolfhawk, Bodeta, German eucalyptus menthol sweet manufacturer. Then if we swing over into car components, Borgers, 156 years old. That lasted through how many umpteen world wars? And the German soap manufacturer Kaups. But it was 174 years old. Which would then make me ask the question, like, what's going on where these companies that have survived so many tumultuous events through world history are suddenly closing all in tandem within weeks of each other? Like, these are gargantuan longevity monsters of industry over there. Close, 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 close. Now you can see if these proven track record of weathering storms companies are closing, what about startups? Just have to look at it. It's going to be absolute catastrophe through business landscape and industrial landscape across Europe. Let's take a look over here at BASF. That also announced permanent downsizing and then moving over to China to produce its chemicals. This is the game changer here. This is absolutely the shuttering of all industry in Europe because so many other countries and companies rely on output products from BASF for their own internal processes and products to be produced. And without this center of production, then everything else across Europe starts to close. An 176-year-old company that makes soap is going to be very different from a chemical company that's producing fertilizer. But in the end, it's really all the same. They're all closing. And this permanent downsizing because of excessive power prices and then lack of natural gas to be able to crack that carbon and the hydrogen apart as a base material to then produce other materials. Those pipelines gone. That is not coming back. It looks like BASF has chosen to pull the plug. Europe is now in the collapse phase. And if you look at that second paragraph, the primary petrochemicals from fertilizers to glue, they spent an extra $2.2 billion on pure gasoline to continue powering operations. So almost every company is bleeding money and it's just unsustainable. So closing the company is one thing, but what happens to the workers from these companies that are going to be in unemployment lines and ensued bread lines after that? This is a chaos and recipe for social unrest that we haven't seen in, 70 years? And it's coming. And it looks like it absolutely was officially stamped as of yesterday with the closing of this most massive of company in Germany. Now, chemicals, one thing. Food is the output of that as well. Obviously, you need sunlight, you need water, but you also need the fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, inputs. Let's take a look at how Canada's doing this year. This was off the new Outlook, September 23rd. Don't have the one for October yet. That won't be ready until next month. Obviously, there's a delay in it. Outlook for principal field crops 2022. So durum wheat, this is the thing that we would make pastas from. Yield tons per hectare. So remember in Canada, they're using hectares, not acres. About 2.4 acres per 1 hectare. It's not exact. It's a rounded number. So 2020-21, looking at 2.86 tons per hectare, and then this year it just drops off a cliff, 1.36. Now the forecast for next year, I just don't see how it's going to really be viable without these farm inputs. And then they bounce the forecast again, quote unquote, right back up to 2.63. Yeah, it's going to stable off. It's going to level off. So what was the cause of that humongous dip? And is it a one-off? Because if you go to the second from the bottom there, carry-out stocks, on the thousands of tons, you start to see a significant drop there as well. That's the extra that was left over after everything was bought, sold, exported, used, and then we have this amount left over as quote-unquote emergency supplies in the stocks, carryover stocks in the silos. So it dropped from 800,000 tons down to 565,000. And then, of course, magically next year is going to be a great year. Look how good it's going to be. It's a forecast. But then if we look over at all wheat except durum, yields, blue, I marked it for you. It dropped as well from 3.74 tons per hectare down to 2.77. So again, there's these massive market drop-offs And if you look at the carryout stocks, again, it follows the same profile. And since it's in thousands, remember 1,000 thousands is a million, so we had 5 million tons and then it's 3 million tons. Like what? Wait a second. How did that happen? Nearly slashed in half. And that's for all wheat. Now jumping over to the seeds, this is a really important one here. Mustard seed, again we come back to the tons per hectare. Almost 1 ton per hectare in 2020, 2021, but then look at that center column, 0.55, dropped nearly in half. Look at the carryout stocks on this, 61 down to 6, that's crazy. 61,000 tons right down to 6,000 tons. That's a 10x decrease. Nobody's talking about this. It just snuck the numbers in and hey, hope nobody notices. And look at this, canola, tons per hectare, 2.43, 2021, and then boom, we're right at 1.54. What is going on with that? And the carryover stocks, carryout stocks, 1.7 million tons, and then look at that, slash, 50% off, 875,000 tons. But look at next year's projections, even lower. Finally, there's going to be a lowered projection. But they do put the yield bouncing right back up again. So you can see that we have a significant problem with production in Canada. Also working on Australian numbers just coming out. The newest release will be today from the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology about what crops are being lost in New South Wales and what the average temperature drop is. I'm saying way lower than anticipated because of the Tonga eruption, volcanic ash and water vapor in the atmosphere, causing a year without a summer. That'll be dealt to in the next video because I want to really put some numbers onto these crop losses that are happening. So 45 degrees north and above, remember those numbers. 45 degrees south and below are the first areas that are going to show significant declines based on 400-year cycles in the sun. We're seeing it. And take a look at that jet pattern. I'm not sure exactly how that manifests out, where you can see where the airlines have actually looped in on themselves with their final termination pattern. But hey, we're living in that kind of world, which I talk about with Ransom Godwin every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, freedomslips.com, and we also broadcast out on 8 different streaming platforms on the video there, so you can join us. I'll put the links in the community tab so you have that. Click and go to your favorite platform just before we start each Thursday night. Hope you can join us there. I do thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.